An innovative evangelistic outreach during the World Cup this summer hopes to grow the church in Russia by reaching millions of residents. For the first time in its nearly 90-year history, the World Cup is being held in Russia. Sergey Rakuba with Mission Eurasia joins us now by Skype to give us the details. Welcome, Sergey.
Thank you so much, Mark, for the opportunity.
Talk about the outreach. What exactly will it involve during this summer's World Cup?
We all know that Russia will be hosting this World Soccer Games in their capital of Moscow, in the nation of Russia, and it will start actually next week. But working together with the evangelical church across the nation of Russia, with a variety of different churches across denominational lines, Mission Eurasia is building a strategy, mobilizing young leaders at those churches to use their facilities so that they can invite people from their community to watch the games that will be translated online, but also they will provide their buildings so that they can have special community events around those games and invite people to watch the games together, but use that opportunity so that they will be able to share the gospel with them. And after those games, they will have an opportunity to strike the kingdom conversation, as we say, and that's where they will be sharing their faith, their testimonies, but most important, they will be able to put a printed copy of a scripture into the hands of people, families that will join them for those events to view the games at their churches during the World Soccer Cup in Russia.
Now, I understand missionary activity has been restricted by legislation passed in 2016 there in Russia. Talk about that legislation, and do you think it's going to affect the outreach?
Actually, it's a concern, and I like all evangelical believers around the world to pray for the national church in Russia. Yes, there are some restrictions recently posted on their evangelical or evangelism outreach outside of their walls. And so-called the Yarovaya package law, that's when they don't allow believers outside of their churches to share their faith. That's why this strategy around the world Cup games is involved so that people will be invited to their officially registered church buildings where they will have their events, where they are allowed to have outreach, and there where we'll be able to share the gospel with them.
Young Russian believers are going to play a key part. Talk a little bit more about what role they will play and why it's important to get the next generation involved.
Mission Eurasia is capitalizing on mobilizing and training, equipping the next generation of leaders in all the countries of the former Soviet Union, but especially focusing on this unprecedented opportunity that this World Cup Games represent. We want these young leaders that we've trained, that have so much energy, full of enthusiasm, sharing their faith, sharing scripture with people in the community. They will be focused on organizing these events and conducting all these outreach programs in their churches. This is so important to equip the next generation who, despite of any challenges, any limitations, are so strategic in their innovative thinking, so they like to use any even small opportunity to share the gospel with their communities, share the gospel and transform their nation. So young people is the key component, young next generation leaders that Mission Eurasia trains and equips, working together with the evangelical church to continue bringing the gospel, despite of challenges, the gospel that would transform Russia for the future.
And the goal of this outreach is huge, Sergey. I understand you want to hand out around 600,000 scriptures, and then in addition to that, 100,000 Russian language New Testaments. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mark. 600 copies of all variety of different scripture, targeting different age segments in the society, youth, teenagers, specially designed magazines that we publish together with our partners in the gospel, and specially designed scripture, but especially this 100,000 copies of New Testaments that, in addition to just the gospel text, we add 12 more pages of special discipleship materials But in addition even to that, Mark, we equip that with a QR code that helps people to download so much needed, important discipleship materials from online, but also to find the church with address that they can find in their communities across the nation. So yes, the goal is huge. 600,000 copies will be printed. We still need to have some resources to finish this printing 100,000 copies of New Testaments, and we would hugely appreciate people to partner with us. We have a matching grant, so that was challenged to us by one of our partnering organizations. Still need some funds and would hugely appreciate people to help us. But 600,000 copies will be placed into the hands of people, families across nation in all those major cities. And we believe that about 3 million people will be impacted altogether during this World Cup games if all this work together. And we believe that hundreds of thousands of new believers will join the churches. Well, new small Bible study groups started. Lots of follow-up programs are already lined up, and we appreciate believers in the U.S., across the world, to pray for the evangelical church, pray for these young leaders that lead this big outreach campaign during the World Cup games in Moscow. And we invite you, join us to bring the gospel to Russia that will transform that nation forever.
That's wonderful. I understand Mission Eurasia leaders believe the latest crackdown in Russia on religious activity could actually be a catalyst for the church to grow. Talk about that.
And that's what we believe, Mark. You know, so all the limitations, I grew up in the Soviet Union. The evangelical church was not allowed to do anything outside of their walls. But we were so creative in how we could share our faith in the community. The evangelical church was not allowed to do or to have any influential place in the Soviet socialistic communist society. And with this new crackdown or with this new limitation that are posted, we see already how the next generation is taking the baton of faithfulness and using any even small opportunity. They pray to God that God will multiply this manifolds and that they can use any small opportunity to bring the gospel and transform their nation for Christ.
All right. Sergei Rakuba with Mission Eurasia, thank you so much for your time and your insights, sir.
Thank you so much, Mark, for the opportunity.